Hello, hello. Welcome back to Tuesdays with Dr. Susan, continuing our executive function series. Talking about task initiation today, my biggest weakness. So it'll be a fun one. I'm gonna light my Palo Santo and clear the bugs out of my head while the intro runs. And then we'll bring Susan on and we will get started. If I can find my intro. There it is.
Hi, I'm Nicole, and as you have probably guessed, I have ADHD. I live and breathe all things ADHD in my personal, family, and professional life. I have a background in psychology and special education, and I've gained a lot of knowledge over the years about ADHD, what it really is, how it touches every aspect of your life and the life of your child, as well as a wealth of information and strategies for living with ADHD and parenting kids with ADHD. In this community, we share stories, we learn together, and we support each other as we navigate all things ADHD. Welcome.
Welcome. Hi, Susan.
Hello.
How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Good.
Is it snowing there?
Not today, but it was last night, and we have had a couple of good snowstorms. Finally, it had zero snow. So I was getting a little worried about our water supply, but we've been getting some the last few days, so that's good. It hasn't interrupted things too much, just one day of things being canceled, but yeah, it is hard for me to get moving when it's dark and cloudy outside. So
Sure.
another thing to talk about with the task initiation today.
Sure.
Weather.
That's
Why don't you go ahead
unusual.
and give our people a brief introduction for those who
Sure.
haven't been
Hello,
here yet?
everybody. I'm Dr. Susan Blumberg. I am a parent, teen, and young adult coach. I help families who are struggling with communication, organization, and launching into the next stage of their life, whether that's high school, college, or into adulthood. I'm parent to two twice exceptional kids, young adults now, who struggle with both disability labels and being gifted, the definition of being twice exceptional, which is the majority of clients who come to see me. And I specialize in executive functioning skills. That's the organizational piece of what I do. And we've been running this series for 5 weeks now or so, looking at different aspects of executive functioning, which the easy definition of is the things you need to get stuff done.
I like it. So today we're talking about task initiation. We've had a couple questions on previous videos. If we have time today, we can do that at the end. If not, I think maybe we'll just do a general executive function question and answer sort of session in 2 weeks. Since next week is our last scheduled of this series. Yeah, and at some point we probably need to talk about 504s. I am hoping to get one of our lovely LawTube friends to maybe come on and talk with me about what's going on
Excellent.
with that lawsuit. If you're in the chat and you have questions about that, I am the smaller channel. So if you want to let those people know that that's a topic you'd like discussed, it may not be an appropriate place on their channels, but I'd love to have, someone come on and explain to us what's going on with this lawsuit that's been filed against Section 504, whether or not we should be worried and what we can do about it. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way because I know that's been a big hot button topic of conversation in the community lately, and something I've been trying to do my research on as well because I'm a little bit concerned.
Sure.
So let's go ahead and jump into task initiation. with a good working definition. What do you got for us, Susan?
Well, let me see if I have an official definition. So, actually, it's technically just starting any task, whether that's brushing your teeth, eating a meal, starting an assignment at school, doing your homework, or doing your chores. So, the definition is simply what the title is, getting started on any task. And we've been, as we talked about organization, we've talked about planning and prioritization, we've talked about self-monitoring. Each time we've had to stop ourselves from bleeding over into this topic of task initiation, because it's very easy to say, oh, look, these topics all impact task initiation, which is completely true. They do. But task initiation is its own topic because it has to do with our ability to transition from doing one thing to doing another thing, or starting something that we need to do when either we don't want to do it, that's one issue, or we have some anxiety about doing it, that's a second issue, or somebody's telling us to do it, maybe we don't want to, or we might want to. We might really be motivated to do it. We're excited about doing it. Yet there could be lots of positives about doing it, and yet we have trouble getting started.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to bring that up because I want people to understand that it's not just a negative thing. We might really want to do this task.
Right.
But we still can't get started.
Yeah. And that is, I can say that task initiation, like when I fill out kind of a checklist or a, self-assessment on executive functioning, task initiation is my biggest weakness. So, I have kind of my list of things that are hurdles to task initiation for me, or that I've noticed with my kids or with people that I've worked with, some ideas and things that have worked. And then I would love to hear lots of good tips from the one in the room who does have executive functioning, which is not me.
So let's talk about the barriers. What do you identify as your barriers, Nicole?
Okay. I have a lot. So I've got the thing feels too big. So kind of an inability to judge how long something is going to take, how much effort it's going to take, and that time blindness factor.
Okay, that's two different things. So first we have size of the task is overwhelming, so you don't know where to start.
Yes.
Common barrier.
Yes.
Second barrier is what you called time blindness.
Yes.
And that means not knowing how to break off chewable size pieces.
Yes.
But
and how,
not
the
knowing
thing
how to
feels like it is going to take 2.5 hours. And so I put it off and put it off and put it off. And when I finally do the thing, it takes 10 minutes.
Right. So not being able to accurately judge the time component of a task, and that makes you anxious or worried.
Or just, I won't have time to do this now, so it's going to take too long, and I have this other thing I have to do at another time. So, and that kind of ties in with kind of another one, which is down further on my list. Let's see, where did I put it? It's kind of multifaceted. So there's a perfectionism piece to it. Like I can't just do it quickly. I get lost in I can't just pick up the bathroom. I'm going to be down on the floor with the toothbrush in the corners. Right. And then it needs to be started at the right time. And if I miss that window, I'll start it at 1:00. It's already 1:07. I might as well wait till 1:15. Right. I'll start the diet on Monday. There's no other day of the week that you could possibly start a diet, right? Like that sort of thing
So
kind of all
putting
ties in with that.
artificial boundaries and limits on the task.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we've had perfectionism, time blindness, not knowing how to put the task into doable pieces. And now we're talking about artificial limits or boundaries on the task. I love the way you said it has to be done on Monday. This is like everybody's weight loss thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go on a diet in November because of the holidays. It'll start in January. And then if you don't start it, January 2nd after New Year's, well, then there's no point in starting it until after my birthday in March. So you go 2 more months of eating.
Yes.
And then you get discouraged by the time.
But I will do things with that like, oh, that's a, Wednesday task. So I'm not going to do it today. But then on Wednesday, I'm too busy to do it. Well, I can't do it until next Wednesday then, obviously.
And this holds really true for adult chores. Like I only do laundry on Thursdays. But by the time you've gotten to Thursday, the pile is so big, it's going to take 4 loads. And as you said before,
yes, that was another.
Is too much to do in one day.
That was another one I put here.
Right.
Is kind of that goes along with struggling to break it into smaller chunks, but also not doing it a little bit every day, right? So procrastinating it actually does make the task bigger, which then makes it harder to do. So
now we have procrastination.
Throwing the dishes every time in the dishwasher every time, just stick them on the counter. Well, now when I have to go do the dishes, it really is going to take me a lot longer than if I just did it.
Right.
The little habits.
Procrastination. So we have at least 6 issues now, 6 barriers. Keep going.
I got one more. I have
it.
a few more, but this is a good one. The shoulds, right? So I should be folding the laundry. Therefore, I can't do any of these other tasks on my list because I can't do those until the shoulds are done. And I can't get myself to do the shoulds because they're too boring. There's no dopamine in them, or I just cannot do that thing right now. My brain will not allow me to do that. Therefore, I can't do these other things because those are the things I should be doing.
And that's why should is a forbidden word.
Right. But it's there in your brain of these are these important things that I'm not doing. I can't do anything else until I do those. When oftentimes, if I would just get started on something, the shoulds oftentimes fall into place. But it becomes this, I have to do this thing first.
It's a barrier.
I can't make myself do this thing.
And now let's apply some of these to kids, because you gave excellent descriptions of the barriers. Some of these that apply to kids is if they're given an assignment that's due in 2 weeks, but the teacher hasn't broken it down into steps, and the kid's brain isn't able to break it down themselves. So they don't realize, well, I need to read the material and develop some notes, and then I can, develop an outline out of my notes, and then I can write a draft, first and give it to the teacher or my mom to approve. And then I write the final thing. So we get to the day before the due date, and all of a sudden they have these 5 steps to do. And it's not enough time to do it. That's why the teacher gave 2 weeks. But if they haven't learned how to chunk an assignment themselves, they need a model of this from the teacher to learn how to use the full 2 weeks to complete a task.
Right, because, that feels like 2 weeks is forever away. I don't have to do this right now. So
because they don't understand how to break down a big task into a smaller one.
Well, and even if they do understand that, like if they've been taught that, it's not fun. It doesn't, I've got 2 weeks to do this.
Right.
I don't have to do it right now, even though I know that I've got to do these 5 steps. I got 2 weeks to do all 5 of those steps. So there's no sense of urgency. There's none of that, we rely on kind of that adrenaline sometimes in order to
Right.
do the thing.
So we talked about this a couple sessions ago, that
Mhm.
urgency is not necessarily the best reason to complete a task, and we have to replace that with other forms of positive reinforcement.
Yes.
So that's one of the issues in task initiation.
Problem is that it works, and so we rely on it.
For many people. Another reason with a kid, so my daughter would accidentally on purpose leave her homework assignment in the after school care room, and it would never come home. So we'd find it, sitting on the radiator when we got back to school the next morning. It just, the assignments never came home.
And intentionally or unintentionally, right?
No, I say
not having the thing.
accidentally on purpose.
Sometimes it is unintentional, and sometimes it is accidentally on purpose.
Right. So the issue being that she knew she'd be overwhelmed by the assignments and the materials would just conveniently get lost. Or the kid who stuffs everything into the bottom of their backpack in a crumpled heap, and you simply can't find the right papers without dumping out the whole backpack and sorting through a week's worth of crap.
Right.
And this is another way to accidentally, on purpose, lose the materials you need in order to be able to complete assignments. This is another way to avoid task initiation. You have homework assignments to do, but by crumpling them all up in the bottom of a full backpack, you lose the materials. Right. Another version of this is, you have to read for 20 minutes. You have to do a 4-page math packet. You read for 20 minutes every night, your 4-page math packet. You get it on Monday and it's due on Thursday, right? So what you end up doing is you read for an hour every night. You never get to the math packet. So what you do is you substitute something and you say, but I'm supposed to read every night. Right. And you're substituting something that you maybe prefer to do for something that you don't prefer to do.
I definitely have a child who is the master of that, of looking busy and doing other things and then running out of time to do the boring homework.
Right. And the last one I want to bring up is something like cleaning your room. And so there are parents who say, once a week, once a month, whatever it is, and they give the direction, clean your room. And though you believe your kid should understand the multiple steps that are involved in this, or a teacher who says, do your English homework, meaning read the chapter, answer the questions at the end of the chapter, type up 4 paragraphs and turn it in, because that's been the assignment every 2 weeks for the whole school year. But the kid is not able to either hear the assignment of clean your room or do the homework, even though the assignment's been the same every week, without ongoing explicit directions. The kid is not able, they need ongoing explicit directions and repetition of explicit directions. They're not able to maintain their memory without explicit directions.
Yeah.
And then parents and teachers get annoyed and say, but cleaning their room is the same every week. They have to change their sheets. They have to pick everything up off the floor. They have to bring down any dishes or cups that are in their room. They have to hang things up in the closet. There's 5 steps involved. It's the same every week, but the child needs explicit directions every time. They're not going to remember clean your room means these 5 things. They're not going to remember do your English homework means read the chapter, answer the questions, and write me a paragraph. Even though neurotypical kids can remember it's the same every week, our kids don't remember, need explicit directions every time. Like, here's another one, study for your spelling test. So the teacher knows that means practice putting them in sentences, look up the definitions, practice the pronunciation. Our kids don't remember that and need explicit directions every time. That's a big thing.
Thankfully for my kids, I've only had one kid who has ever had like traditional spelling lists with the spelling test on Friday, and he is a great speller, so he doesn't ever need to study them. So that one, because it is the kid who, if we had to do that, he would lose his ever-loving
my
mind.
daughter had a traditional spelling test for a couple years in elementary school. And since she had to type, she couldn't handwrite her spelling test. So what we did is she had to do a box. And in one corner was an antonym. In one corner was a synonym. In one corner was a homonym, if there was one. And in one corner, I can't remember what the other one was. And then she had to alphabetize her spelling list.
Oh, boy.
And no, she loved it because this was exciting and interesting. And just by rote, memorizing your spelling words bored her out of her mind.
Yeah.
But having this more interesting intellectual task, she actually learned all the spelling words.
I mean, and that's one of those things that I think we just often put in accommodations for and just say, they're always going to be on a computer with spell check. So let's just teach them how to use spell check instead of worrying about their handwritten spelling.
Eventually, we did that for her too. But what we did first is that to help her start the boring task of memorizing spelling words, is that we made it more interesting for her. Because for her, looking things up in dictionaries was, I love dictionaries. And dictionaries
Sure. Yeah, those hyperlexic kids.
I increased my vocabulary by homonyms, antonyms, and synonyms. You know, this was like, research. So
it's just, we can do that with any of these tasks, is find a way to make it interesting, right? Turn it into a game or
exactly. So now let's get back to your barriers.
Like it. Yeah.
I just wanted to make them kid relevant as well as adult relevant. Yeah. But so our barriers, the first barrier, chunking up the assignment. Well, I just did that with the spelling test, didn't I?
Right.
And with a long-term assignment for adults at work or kids in middle or high school, one of the accommodations we make is that teachers have to give them a rubric with the chunked assignment, and they have to be accountable. So what you call urgency, I call accountability, which is that they don't just chunk the assignment, but they have to turn it into the teacher, and the teacher has to give them feedback about it.
Yeah.
Right? And that works for both kids and adults. Okay, to chunk an assignment.
I'm going to pull up a couple of, go ahead. Yeah. I've got a couple of examples of things that I've created for kids to help out with this process.
Now, a lot of teachers and a lot of schools just say that the accommodation for this is a graphic organizer. And I'm going to tell you that's the wrong answer. Because most graphic organizers are boring to our kids. And that's because it doesn't actually help them chunk an assignment or help them
It gives them another assignment to do.
Their more unusual brains. And so a graphic organizer that says, here's your topic sentence, here's your introduction sentence, here's your first body paragraph, here's your second body paragraph, doesn't allow our kids to use their more unusual ways of thinking. And so instead, I recommend that they use web organizers or mind maps, which is similar to a web organizer. And what that does is it's not linear.
Right.
Schools want to impose linear thinking. And for kids with ADHD, autism, disorders of written expression, where they have trouble getting their ideas out of their brain onto paper or the computer. Linear thinking, which is what most of the graphic organizers teachers assign, are all linear. And our kids don't think linearly.
Right.
We as adults don't think linearly. And so that
I sure don't.
So a web organizer, which or a mind map, which is very similar, has your main idea in the middle of the web, just a circle, and it's your main idea. So I just this morning helped one of my adult clients who's in college work on a paper about ecotourism. And we're writing about a sanctuary for wolf dogs that she worked at. And so the main idea is that this wolf dog rescue is a variation of ecotourism. But we can't kind of do it. She doesn't think linearly. So you have arrows going off in different directions. And we have one sub thing that's about how is this a nature preserve or not a nature preserve? And we have multiple ideas around that circle. And we have another circle that talks about how they took a basically a destroyed what's the word I want? Not territory, building and land. It had been it had drug users there. It had been really destroyed. It was not in good condition. It certainly wasn't good to have animals on, and how they got volunteers and they cleaned it up and they made it a sanctuary for these animals. And so then we had ideas about that. And then we had a third web coming off the middle, and it was about how they turn this into a sustainable nature environment. They're growing their own food now. How, why these animals needed, why can't you have wolf dogs as pets? They're not trainable. They're not good in families' homes. You have to have a preserve for them. And then we'll have another one about how they educate people who visit, what makes this ecotourism, because they're saving these dogs and they're educating people about them. So this isn't linear.
Right.
This is a web with lots of different ideas. She's now
It's kind of how I use my dump book, right? I just
but what the difference
all
is
there,
that
and then I organize it after.
It's connected.
Yeah.
And now she'll be able to turn it into an outline where she takes each section and writes a paragraph or two, and it'll turn into an essay.
Yeah, when I used to teach, when I was in my special ed days, we had a writing program called Step Up to Writing, something like that. And it used a lot of color coding. So we would main ideas were green, expanding details were yellow, like we had.
Great, I like that.
So then we would give them multiple types of graphic organizers. So we had one that looked like a hamburger, and then we had one that was more like a web, and they'd put their things down and then go through with a highlighter and mark it. Is this a red? Is this a yellow? Or is this a green? And now we can organize together. And so a lot of times it's getting all of the ideas that are pinging around down onto the paper and then helping them make the connections. So sometimes we would do it backwards and it would just be a brainstorm page, right? And then we could take the brainstorm page and put it into a web. And then we can take the web and put it into an outline. So
what's really important about it is schools want to force our non-linear thinking kids into linear thinking, because that's what teachers think of neurotypical students doing. And and that's one of the things that stalls our kids from task initiation. They can't start a task if we're being forced into a form of linear thinking when our kids don't think that way.
Yeah.
So that's a barrier. So you can't just write graphic organizer as an accommodation. You have to think about what kind of graphic organizer, and does it match the kind of thinking our kids have, so that they
Right.
can actually have a kind of graphic organizer that enables them to get their thoughts out.
Mm-hmm.
And
So I'm
so
going to pull up
mind
a
maps
couple of
and
things.
webs, we're color coding, mind maps, webs. So we've
Mm-hmm.
talked about the index cards before. What
Right.
I taught my clients and my daughter is, as they're reading material, write down a thought that's relevant to their outcome on an index card or a sticky note. One per card, one per index note, sticky note. And then after you've read all the material, shuffle your cards. Put all
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are about this topic together, all the ones about this topic together. You're making paragraphs with your
Yeah.
index cards. Then you can translate them into your paper. This is nonlinear thinking. And this is what's important for teachers and parents to know. We can't force our kids into linear thinking if they don't think that way. And that's something that's interrupting their task initiation.
Right. So I'm going to pull up a couple of things here that I have created for kids and clients that are different ways to kind of break down those basic tasks into some chunks in
Forgive me,
manageable
I
ways.
need an unexpected bio break. So I'm
Go
going to
for
run
it.
through that while you pull these.
You got it. So this is our daily bedroom checklist. So, and this is more for younger kids. I have a different one that we use for my older son now, but this is as what I created a few years ago, and my younger kids still use it. So it breaks down that task of clean your room, right? Or pick your room up every day into some manageable chunks. And I've used this a few ways. I've used the you need to do this whole list every day if their room is manageable. If it's not, we give them a timer. You need to work on your room for 15 minutes, start with step 1 and get as far as you can. And if they're doing that consistently, they'll get there eventually, right? So step 1, make your bed. Here's what it looks like. Step 2, clothing. If it's dirty, put it in the hamper. If it's clean, fold it and put it away. 3, toys, put them in the correct bins and put the bins in the closet. Books, your current book that you're reading on your nightstand, put the rest away on the bookshelf. Your dresser, put items where they belong, throw away trash and clear off clutter. It tends to be a surface that just collects everything. And then last, floor, pull out everything from under the bed that doesn't belong, throw away any trash, put away your shoes, and put away anything left on the floor. So if they do this every day, it takes 30 seconds if they're starting with a clean room. If not, if they start with this step 1 is really easy and gets them started. Sometimes we need an access point to start the task that doesn't feel overwhelming, and making your bed, especially because 2 of my kids have those, they're called beddies. They're like they zip up, right? So that the top quilt and the bottom sheet thing is all one piece. It just goes on their bed and then it zips up the side. So to make their bed, all they have to do is zip up the zipper. It's super easy. There's nothing to straighten on their bed. They just zip it up and put their pillows and stuffed animals on top. So it's a really easy way to get them started on cleaning their room. They are amazing. If you haven't seen them, they're called Betties. They're not super cheap, but it has been totally worth it because it makes doing this kind of thing so easy and manageable and gives them a place to start. So that's that one. And then the next one is each of my boys, because they're boys and they're disgusting, are responsible for wiping down a bathroom every day. So we have their main bathroom upstairs. We have a half bath on the main floor and a bathroom in the basement. And each of them is just assigned to one bathroom. And this is what they have to do every day. Clear the counter, put everything where it belongs. That helps if you don't have too much stuff and there is a place on the counter where everything belongs, right? Floors, pick up everything off the floor, throw away the trash, the dirty laundry in the hamper, hang up towels. Number 3 is sink and counter. Use a disinfectant wipe to wipe off the sink, use another wipe, a different wipe than the counter to wipe the toilet.
Excellent.
Double check and make sure there's no pee spots. So that's my boys' daily bathroom check.
I love this, Nicole.
You'll have to go back. This is the bedroom one we went over. I was talking about. Have you seen those beddies? The beddings,
Yes.
bedding. So 2 of my boys have those on their beds. So it makes making their bed super easy. All they have to do is zip it up. So yeah, that's their step 1 on their bedroom because it's super easy and fast and gets them going. And then you have some behavioral momentum.
And this also really fits into what we said about chunking.
Yes, right.
Bigger tasks into
breaking
small
the tasks
ones.
into smaller tasks. Here's the next thing. This one works really well for my little guy with autism. This is his room cleaning flow chart.
That's
So,
pretty complicated.
He loves this thing because he can just follow the
Did he
steps.
help you create it?
No, but we went through learning how to use it together.
Okay.
So we pick something up from anywhere. What is it? Is it trash? We throw it away. Is it clothing? Then we look down here. Is it clean or dirty? If it's dirty, put it in the hamper. If it's clean, does it fit? Yes, fold it and put away. No, put it in the box in the hallway that mom puts all that stuff in. Okay. Is it a book? Put it neatly on the bookshelf. Is it a toy? Does it belong in my room? Yes or no? If yes, put it in its correct bin. If no, put it in the basket. So I give them each like a laundry basket of stuff that doesn't belong in their room. So if it doesn't belong in here, it goes in that basket. We deal with the basket later. Is it something else? Does it belong in my room? Is it mine? No, put it in the basket. Yes. Do I still need it? Yes or no? Do I know where it goes? Yes, put it away. No, put it on your bed.
Would you send this to me, please?
Yes.
I love this.
Do I still need it? No. Is it broken or trash? Throw it away. Is it still useful? Would my brother like to have it? Yes or no? Yes. Offer it to brother. No. Put it in the DI box. So that's our like donation box. So, and then at the end, we have a bed full of things that he doesn't know where to put away and a basket full of things that go in other places in the house. So then I can come in, we can go through the things in his bed and figure out a place for them. So he loves this thing.
Yes, yes. I love this thing.
Yeah. So that is, those are a couple of tools that we use at home and that I've given to some clients and whatnot. But just some examples of how to break things down into manageable steps to help our kids get started and move their way through tasks that feel overwhelming.
Excellent, excellent choices.
Thanks.
So I've seen the bed and bedroom versions. I help clients create those, but your room cleaning flow chart is new to me and I love it.
Tried to break it down as much as I possibly could. So
it's brilliant, brilliant.
And he loves it. My older son is like, I'm going to kill you if you make me do this. But my 9-year-old,
that's it. It depends on
he loves it. Yeah. So let's talk about, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to talk about a couple of the other barriers and some strategies for those.
Yeah.
So one of the ones you mentioned was time blindness. Mm-hmm. And related to that was thinking it's going to take too much time. I can't do it now. I have to put it off. So I'd really like to talk about that. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
So one of the really important things here has to do with needing to learn how to estimate how much time a task is going to take. And what I like is some of the planners that I have for kids actually has estimate how much time it's going to take on the planner. And there's a couple good ways we can work with our kids on this, and with adults who also think, oh my God, it's going to take too long.
Yeah.
And who put off on tasks until they're going to take hours and hours, like 4 loads of laundry instead of 1 load. But what's really helpful with homework is to set a limit on how much time you're going to spend on a task.
Mhm.
So one of the things we do is say, you're only going to spend an hour on homework, especially in elementary and middle school. In
Yeah.
high school, we can set it a little longer, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, but then we have to work with the school to say all 6 teachers can't give homework on the same night.
Right.
So we have to work cooperatively with the school to say, we're limiting homework hours, and
Mhm.
therefore teachers, you have to work cooperatively to manage
Yeah.
this, because if we give too many homework assignments in a night, we, the parents, are going to stop our child, and some assignments are not going to get done, and he cannot be marked down for that.
Mhm. We have one of the main accommodations, and probably the only one that will continue to stick around for my oldest, is no penalties for late work up to 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's limited. He can't do everything at the end of the term, but if he gets overwhelmed and there's too much in a day, or he forgets to turn something in, something slips through the cracks, he's got a little bit of a buffer there and can't be penalized for
So
it.
I often word that differently. And what I say is that the kid has to ask for the extra time.
See,
And
and that
so,
is what
wait,
that's
let
what
me
they
finish.
typically put on.
Yeah, let me finish what I'm going to say about that. So what I like to do is say a kid gets an accommodation of 2 extra days or whatever it is. And if the kid isn't able to finish it, they can request more additional time.
Yeah.
And the reason I do that is I want to teach the child how to advocate for themselves.
Yes. So the
So
problem that we were having with that, because that's how it was a couple of years ago, is that we then had teachers who said, you need to ask for that extra time ahead of time. And that
that's what I
wasn't
say.
working.
Well, and that's something you have
Because
to support. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, because for him, the problem was not that he needed more time to do the assignment. He was like, he can get things done in an amount of time, but he would miss a deadline or forget to turn something. It was that piece of executive
Right.
functioning that was the problem. And so most of the teachers were fine, but we got pushback from a few teachers saying, well, he didn't ask for it ahead of time, therefore I'm not doing that. And it was like, well, that's kind of the whole point, is that he doesn't know ahead of time. Like, that's the skill that's not
Right.
there, that we're accommodating here. So we just need to say, we're limiting the amount of time. You don't have forever to do it. But if something slips through the cracks, you miss a deadline, you forgot about an assignment, or you did the thing but forgot to turn it in, you have a little bit of time to not be
Right.
penalized by that
Yeah.
part of
So
it. So
usually there's 3 accommodations you have to use together to make my version of it work. And one accommodation is reducing the amount of homework, which means you do only the odd or even problems in math.
yeah.
You don't have to write as long an essay or as many essays. You have limited science homework to the minimum amount to meet the standard. And you don't have to do the extra. Plus you have, so we've limited the amount of time, we've limited amount of homework to mastery only. We've already given additional time by a few days, but if the kid isn't able to complete the assignment by that new due date, they do have to ask for additional time by the due date, not after. And so it's when you have all 3 of those accommodations together that I can usually make that work.
Yeah.
The second half of that is by limiting the amount of time to do homework, we then each day choose, you only have an hour and a half to do homework, you have 3 assignments, which ones are you going to get done today? And we ask them to choose an easy one and a harder one. So they may still not get all of the assignments, but we prioritize them. Which ones are due tomorrow? That's the one you have to do today.
Right.
Which ones are not due till Friday? So this goes back to the planning and prioritization session
Right.
we had last time or 2 weeks ago. And you have to look over your homework for the week and see what your due dates are. So I'm not going to have you do the one that's due Friday. I'm going to have you do the one that's due tomorrow. That's your priority tonight.
Right.
And if there's an easier one or a couple of harder ones, I'm going to have you do an easy one and one hard one, because you're only getting an hour and a half to do your homework. I've set a limit on it. And the reason we set a limit on it is that we know that going any longer than that hour and a half is going to overwhelm the student. And even within that hour and a half, we're going to build in 2 10-minute breaks.
Yes.
So we're building in the brain breaks, movement breaks, a snack. We're asking them to do one easy assignment, one hard assignment. If they still have time in their hour and a half, they can tackle a third thing. And we're prioritizing. So we're asking them to do the assignment that's due tomorrow, not the one that's due in 3 days. So you can see that I'm not just saying they have to ask for extended time later. I'm building scaffolding using 3, 4, 5 accommodations and support in order to build a scaffold that's going to help support them with their task initiation, with their task completion, and with their ability to advocate for themselves. It's a whole scaffold. None of these accommodations will work in isolation. They have to have all of them.
Yeah. So what you mentioned, pick an easy one and a hard one. And that, kind of goes back to what I was talking about when you were away, starting with something that's really simple that can give you some behavioral momentum. So, that make the bed, which is really easy because all they have to do is zip it up, and then they've got that check mark, which gives a little bit of a yes, I did something. And that helps you kind of continue on that train. So, that works for adults as well. We talk about things like habit stacking. If you've got a routine that you already do, every morning, the first thing you do when you get up is drink a glass of water, then put your pills next to your glass of water. So that build on that. There was something else I was going to say, but I lost it. That's okay.
Have we not talked about any of your barriers yet? Have we left any of them out?
I don't know. On my other page.
I do have one other thing that I mentioned last week that I wanted to talk about again.
Do it.
Messy versus right.
Yes.
So this applies to several of the barriers you mentioned.
Yes.
Where people say, oh, I wanted to do it at 1:00 and now it's 1:07, so I'm not going to get started because I won't have time to finish it by 1:30. Or they say,
I don't have time to clean the whole kitchen, so I'm not going to do the dishes.
So I'm not going to do it. Or I have 4 loads of laundry to do, and so I won't have time today to complete all 4 loads of laundry, right? So I'm not going to do it. So what I want to say is start. What's more important is to do the task messy than not to do it at all. It's more important to get 1 load of laundry done and get to the other 3 loads another day than not to do any laundry. It's more important to complete that 1 easy homework assignment than not to do any homework at all. It's more important to uncrumple all that stuff that's in your backpack than to get any of those assignments done, because getting those all out of your backpack is a step in the right direction. It's more important if the only thing the kid does in their room is 1 task. They pulled up all their blankets off the floor and put them on the bed. They deserve praise for that.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
all they did is get the dirty clothes off the floor and put them in the hamper and they didn't do anything else, they deserve praise for that.
Well, and I one other thing that was kind of on my barriers list that we didn't talk about that I kind of think fits in here is this: we have a history of failure, right? And so starting is scary because so
Yep.
many times we have failed
Yep.
and we beat ourselves up. So we spend all this time, on those shoulds. Well, I can't do this thing. I should be able to do this thing. And we get very, very stuck there.
Yes.
So, one of my biggest tips, I think, for getting more done and being able to start more tasks is offload and accommodate things as much as you can. The best thing I've done for my own mental health, aside from getting my medications figured out, is hiring a laundry service.
Oh,
Because
wow.
that laundry thing was always there, always chirping at me in the back of my mind of, you're a failure because you can't get this laundry done and everyone else can. So once a week, we put all the laundry in a bag. I put it on the porch. 2 days later, it comes back clean and folded, and all we have to do is put it away.
Brilliant.
Everyone always has clean laundry, and I no longer have to feel like I'm a failure of a
It's
human
brilliant.
being because I can't keep up on top of the laundry. It is a priority for our budget because it's my life accommodation. I've offloaded that. I no longer have that task to deal with. Makes it so that I can tackle these other tasks without this thing chirping in my ear telling me what a failure I am all day.
Brilliant. I'm so proud of you. Teachers have a really hard time with this.
Yes.
And so it's really hard to tell teachers that they should accept and give 100% grade to whatever a student turns in, even if it's not complete.
Right.
And that's an
praise effort.
right? It's an accommodation I have to fight for, particularly in high school students who have multiple disabilities or who are twice exceptional.
Yeah.
And so the reason for that is teachers have been trained to say completed work is better. And the thing is our kids can't always complete the work because of all these reasons we've been talking about for weeks now. And when we say to a teacher, what the kid turned in is the best possible work they were capable of at the time, and that deserves the best possible grade you can give them. That is a mind shift or a lens change, as Dr. Ross Green would say, that you have to change your expectations.
Right.
And this is my flush the toilet example that I've said before. When you say to a parent, when a kid is learning to be toilet trained and they flush the toilet, you should praise them and give them enormous, rewards for flushing the toilet. And a parent says, they're supposed to flush the toilet. And I said, would you rather praise them for flushing or have them not flush? And then they can't say anything to me because, of course, they'd rather praise them for flushing than have them not flush. And so saying to a high school teacher, would you rather have them do 3/4 of the assignment well and praise them for it by giving them a 95%, or have them not do the assignment at all or not show up in your class? It's really hard. They'll say, well, I want them to show up and do all the work. That's not one of your choices.
Yes. Well, it's another accommodation that we often will work with schools on is providing different measures of mastery, right?
There you go. Exactly.
Let them sit and talk to you about the subject rather than take a test.
Alternative methods. Let them draw a poster. Let them give you oral responses.
Right, because what is the purpose of the test? Is it to see if they can take a test, or is it to assess their knowledge? And if it's to assess their knowledge, there's multiple ways that we can do that.
I always want to say, let them
the
do
teacher doesn't have time to sit down and have a 30-minute discussion with 400 students to assess their knowledge. So they give a test, but they can fit in the time to do it for 1 or 2.
That's right. They can also have somebody else take down the information and scribe it. And then they just have to grade that like they're grading the other 399 tests.
Right. It can sometimes be a battle with certain teachers. We found that in particular with the twice exceptional kids, with the more advanced teachers, right? The concurrent enrollment classes, the honors classes, right? Because they're like, well, we expect more. Doesn't matter.
Nope.
This is a college class. Yeah. Do they know the information? Then you can pass them. They don't have to sit and write all of their answers out on this test.
I don't know if you heard me, but I said some of the alternatives are make a poster, sing a song, or do an interpretive dance.
Love it. My sister would have done so much better in high school if she could have done an interpretive dance for everything.
Oh, me too.
She got her degree in modern dance. So.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So some other we only have a few minutes, so I'm just going to kind of run through a few tips that I had made a list of. So we talked about habit stacking. We've talked about body doubles and accountability partners before. Setting up the environment to do those tasks in those places, right? So making sure that everything you need is in that place. This is where I do homework. This is where I do work. This is where I do this thing, and have everything you need there so that it reduces the barriers to starting. Visual cues, put a little sticky note in the corner to remind you to do the thing. We have little notes on the bathroom mirrors, so all the kids are brushing their teeth, they can remember to do certain things.
Visual schedules, let me say, visual schedules in the elementary school. Teachers don't realize how helpful those are.
Yeah.
Not just words, but a visual schedule with pictures.
Using timers, visual timers. I have 3 million of these time timers in my house. We have them on like every surface. Reminders on your phone. Give yourself and your kids rewards. Tie the task to dopamine. It's okay if it's extrinsically motivated and not intrinsically. We talked about that a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And then something that works for me is I do like to listen to longer form content, on YouTube, podcasts, books, and things like that. But I have found that when I am trying to do a task like clean a room that really needs reorganizing and things like that, using music works better for me, because if I do get distracted or I pick up my phone to do something and I end up in La La Land, the changes between songs is a reminder and an impetus to transition. So you're built in every 3 to 5 minutes a little get back to work cue with music that you're not going to get from kind of a longer form. So those were my list.
I think those are an excellent list. I think in the classroom setting, sticky notes on the desk for warnings or reminders that we're going into a transition are really helpful. Those visual clocks, especially the ones that have red, green, yellow for warnings that your task is winding up, are really helpful. Color coding, you and I are both very fond of that, so that the materials change color, and that helps them shift from, we're not doing red notebook English things, we're now getting out our blue notebook for math things, is a way to make that shift to the new task very helpful. And I think the biggest thing is helping us rehearse with verbal affirmations. I am completing this task, then I'm going to go and get my blue notebook, and we're going to start math. And by the teacher giving them a couple minutes warning, in 2 minutes, we're going to put away our red notebooks for English and go get our blue notebooks for math. Or in 2 minutes, we're going to put away our blue notebooks for math, and then we're going to get online We need to give verbal as well as visual, that is multimodal instructions to students to help them transition to new tasks.
Love it. All right. Next week, we are talking about working memory. And that wraps up our executive function series. And then, so the week after that, we'll do a Q&A session. So if you have questions about any of these topics that we've talked about, or any other executive function issues, things you'd like tips on, things like that, make sure you put them in the comments on one of the videos. I am gathering them up, so we will have a list of questions to answer. Or if you're here live that day and you have questions in the chat, that's great too. You can also reach out to one of us on our various platforms. Susan, you want to share your information for the people real quick?
My website is drsusanblumberg.com, and you can schedule a free consult with me at callcoachsusan.com.
Thank you much. And we will see y'all next week.
Sounds great. Thank you as always, Nicole, for a great conversation.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Same to you.
Find the outro here. There we go.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This video is not a substitute for counseling, psychotherapy, medical, or mental health care. The information and advice shared here should not be used in place of any form of diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Information provided here does not involve diagnosis or treatment of medical or mental or psychological disorders. If you feel the need for professional support, please seek a local professional in your area. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only.